Hello, and welcome to Step 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. In Steps 1 through 3, we laid a foundation for change. In the past, we tried to change on our own. In Step 3, we learned we must look to our higher power in this effort. This took courage and a newfound understanding of ourselves. Step 4 helped us identify our strengths and character defects. Step 5 led us to admit our shortcomings to a higher power, ourselves, and another person. We are thankful for Step 6, which will help us turn our character defects into growth by being willing to let them go. A person burdened with secrets rarely feels courageous enough to change. By working the steps, we discovered change is possible with the help of Nar-Anon. Step 6 says, we're entirely ready. How do we know when we are ready? To be ready means we acknowledge our defects and are willing to let go of our old ways. We each become ready in our own time and in our own way. When it becomes too painful to continue as we are, then we are ready to change. We can no longer live in denial. By working the Nar-Anon Program, we experience self-discovery and recovery. This is evidence of a higher power making significant changes in our attitudes, behaviors, and beliefs. To be ready is to trust there is a better path for us to follow. We begin to notice the impact of a higher power in our life. We are learning to fill our time with activities that promote and support our well-being. We begin to manage stress and take care of ourselves. Are we procrastinating? Are we taking on responsibility for problems other than our own? As we forgive ourselves for these and other behaviors, we have more energy to focus on what is important. By honestly expressing our feelings in Nar-Anon meetings, we witness the benefits of sharing. We gain courage and strength from the success of others. A member shares, with my higher power's help, I am able to let go of my old behaviors. Recovery is a journey of self-discovery and change. The purpose of Step 6 is to allow our higher power to guide us and help us become willing to follow that guidance. Here are some suggestions. Be willing to accept ourselves as we are. Acknowledge our defects of character and ask for our higher power's help to remove them. Recognize these defects will always have power over us until we address them. Accepting our defects without judgment releases their stronghold, and we become willing to have them removed. To become willing. We may have areas of our lives we are willing to give up, and others we are not. We may have trouble admitting some of our character defects. We may see them as useful tools. The thought of giving up control of every area all at once may cause us some fear or anxiety. Trusting that the God of our understanding is in control and will gently guide us along our path is a gradual process. As we continue to place our faith and trust in a higher power for guidance and strength, we move forward. Sometimes we only recognize the growth in our lives when we look backward. We may not be aware we have already made some changes. Maybe others see them before we do. We can stop and thoughtfully examine and appreciate the progress we have made so far. As we recognize our growth, we gain courage to continue. We begin to see progression from old habits to new habits. Old habits: perfectionism, chaos, self-doubt, sadness, frustration, despair, obsession, compulsiveness. New habits: forgiveness, peace and serenity, acceptance, faith, joy, gratitude, hope, patience, release with love. At this point in our recovery, we have become aware that some of our habits are harmful to ourselves or others. Remember, this is a process. If we continue to work on ourselves, we will constantly be changing and growing. Our higher power will reveal to us those areas we are able to accept and are willing to work on at this point in our journey. As each layer is peeled away, we need time to process emotions and feelings. We need time to heal. Remember, these steps may be taken more than once. Change is a process, not an event. Question number 1. What are my thoughts, feelings, and fears as I begin to work on Step 6? My initial thought was that I have too many things to change, and I feel overwhelmed. I am afraid I will be too overwhelmed to take any action. But I think I'll just take it slow, and I'll be okay. Number 2. Explain how I have changed an old habit to a new habit. When I want to change a habit, I need to change the part of my routine that includes that habit. I also need to replace that habit with something else, not just give it up. Number 3. How does my relationship with a higher power help with step 6? I can pray to God and let Him know I want His help, but that I feel stuck. Number 4. Make a list of areas I am not ready to turn over to my higher power. I am intellectually ready to turn over all areas to my higher power. Number 5. Make a list of areas I might consider turning over. Some areas I want to turn over are my fear, anxiety, sadness, and resentment. Number 6. Make a list of habits I am ready to have God remove. Being a pessimist, not trusting God, and reacting with anger. Number 7. What defects do I still find useful? I find it useful to be emotionally guarded from people because it keeps me from getting hurt. Number 8. How can I trust that my higher power will guide me as I continue to work this step? I can pray to God and ask for help with this. I can take things one day at a time so I don't get too overwhelmed. Being entirely ready. Being entirely ready means we are open to learning a better way to live, rather than focusing on what will get us by. We work step 6 by becoming ready for our higher power to bring change into our lives. Our higher power cannot change us unless we are willing. We quiet our minds from distraction and open our hearts to change and new beginnings. In step 6, we realize we need to change our attitudes and behaviors. We may not be entirely ready, but can begin to move in the right direction. We become ready to let go. Letting go does not mean we become passive and do nothing. It means we give up on our struggle to control. We turn our will over to our higher power. Rather than relying on our self-will, we begin to rely on our higher power to help us. Step 6 prepares us to become ready. We do this by reading Nar-Anon literature, asking for support from others in the program, and doing service work. We have spent time sharing with our sponsor about the recovery process. We are learning to avoid unhealthy situations. When an uncomfortable situation or crisis occurs, we might ask ourselves, what can we learn from this? Number 9. How can I be sure I am now ready to let my higher power remove my character defects? I know I have attitudes and behaviors that could be healthier, and I want to have joy and peace instead of pain. Acknowledging this and wanting God's help will have to be good enough to start. Number 10. Think about the phrase entirely ready. What does that mean to me? To me, I don't know that entirely ready is knowable, or if that's realistic. Being ready is good enough, I think. Number 11. What are my thoughts or feelings on being willing? I think the intellect must consciously want to, and feelings shouldn't get in the way. Number 12. What does surrender or giving up mean to me? It means accepting the present moment as it comes, and trusting that God will provide all that is best for me, even if I don't understand it. Number 13. What are my fears of letting go? I feel anxious about it. I feel helpless when I think of letting go. I think of just sitting here waiting for God to do something for me, or to me. But I am supposed to live, so how do I know how to do that? Number 14. What, if anything, is keeping me from being entirely ready? I think I have doubt that life will improve if I surrender. What if everything just stays the same? Removing our defects. For many Nar-Anon members, admitting our defects brought discomfort and pain. Our character defects are familiar tools and are often coping mechanisms we use to deal with life. Continuing a healthy one-day-at-a-time recovery, we feel safe asking a power greater than ourselves to remove our defects of character. When we become aware of our weaknesses, the consequences of our negative behaviors, and the pain they have caused, we become willing to change. Letting go is a grieving process. As we work through denial, anger, bargaining, and depression, we finally reach acceptance, with no conditions. Our goal is freedom and serenity, not perfection. Members who want recovery have made a commitment. We trust that many of our character defects can be removed. Imagine replacing these defects with healthy attitudes and actions. Question number 15. How does my understanding of the word defect help me be ready to have them removed? I think defects are flaws and shortcomings. I don't want to have a lot of defects. I think rising above our defects can bring more happiness than staying stuck with them. Number 16. What unhealthy character defects have I identified? Some unhealthy defects are that I am quick to anger, untrusting, resentful, and pessimistic. Number 17. Having recognized these defects of character, how will I begin to work with my higher power in removing them? I will begin by asking God to help me. I will invite Him into every part of my life, my thoughts, feelings, words, actions, and inactions. Number 18. What do I hope is the end result of removing these defects? I hope I will have peace and joy, even if I still have challenges. Number 19. How am I willing to change my life to live in a more positive manner? I am willing to complete the steps, to ask God for help every day, and to tell myself stop when I am getting too negative. Our relationship with a higher power. In the past, we relied on our own will. We placed unrealistic demands on our higher power. In Step 6, we are learning that a healthy relationship involves two-way communication, listening and speaking in a humble way. Our relationship with the God of our understanding developed through working the first 5 steps. This relationship brought about new and comfortable feelings. In Step 3, we made the decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. We are now willing to turn over our character defects. We know we cannot do it alone, and the God of our understanding will guide us through this process. Question number 20. How am I relying on my willpower to change instead of trusting my higher power for help? I have to have the will to ask God and the will to trust Him. So in that sense, I am relying on my will to make decisions and follow through with them. God won't force our hand. We have free will. I want to freely trust Him. Number 21. Which behaviors or defects do I make excuses for or try to justify? If someone has hurt me in the past, I can justify resentment or disrespect. I can be stubborn to acknowledge and admit my mistakes. Number 22. What doubts interfere with my readiness to have God remove my shortcomings? I am intellectually ready for God to remove my shortcomings. I think that a feeling of distrust may interfere, but I can still consciously use my will to be ready. Number 23. Do I believe there is a confident person within me that is ready to emerge? I'm not sure. I have a lot of anxiety that interferes with my confidence. I hope a more confident person within me will emerge. Number 24. List things I would like to change about myself. I would like to be less jumpy, less angry, less tired, less resentful, less overwhelmed, more forgiving, more energetic, more optimistic, more hopeful, and more confident. I can ask my higher power to help me with this process. Begin by saying the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. A member shares, I used to think I wanted others to change so my life could get better. Now what I really want is to change myself so I can have peace and serenity. A Step 6 story. When I came to the 6th step, I had to ask myself, am I ready to let go of blank and allow my higher power to show me a healthier way? I have so many defects. I know I cannot remove them on my own, but I am willing to believe that God can. This week I saw a beautiful reminder of how my higher power is always at work. The tree in my front yard was slow to change last year. Many dead leaves clung to its branches throughout the winter. But now spring has arrived and bright green leaves are budding out on the same branches as the old ones. My defects, my bad habits, and unhealthy ways are the old leaves. There are fewer of them than there used to be, but as the saying goes, old habits die hard. As much as I would like to shake them off, bitterness and resentments still cling to me. But the God of my understanding is still producing new growth, a fresh perspective, a more thankful heart. As I continue to work the Nar-Anon Program, new growth will steadily crowd out my old dysfunctional ways. I feed the healthy new me by attending meetings, reading Nar-Anon literature, developing relationships with other members, praying, meditating, and performing service. If I neglect any of these practices, my growth will be stunted. After admiring my beautiful tree, I realize I do not have to ask if I am ready to change. Rather, I must be willing to accept and be thankful for the changes that my higher power continually produces in me. Reflections on Step 6. In Step 6, we simply become willing for the God of our understanding to remove our defects of character. It is important to acknowledge that being ready and the actual removal are two different things. The 12-step process is taking shape. We recognize, trust, and are prepared to let go of behaviors that no longer serve us. We are now thinking more clearly and are able to reflect on our progress. The changes we have made have given us a better way to live. No longer are we the timid, angry, confused, fearful people who entered the rooms of Nar-Anon. By no means are we perfect, but positive changes are taking place. Phase 1, Steps 1, 2, and 3, the process of giving up on our illusion of control. Phase 2, Steps 4, 5, and 6, the process of owning up to our defects of character and our assets. We look forward to Phase 3, Steps 7, 8, and 9, the process of making up to ourselves and all those we have harmed. We are now ready to continue with Step 7. Thanks for listening. Join me next time as we move on to Step 7.